Hi everyone, welcome back to Riffs. We have a couple pictures to show you before we get started.
Hi, hi.
Okay, go ahead, Squeepy.
Hi. We've got pictures. This one's from Elora. She was actually drawing this on stream while waiting for a stream to start. It was fun.
Hmm.
This is, of course, Patrick liking to raise people's guns in the air. And we're gonna call him Teddy, and he seems very upset or confused, or probably both. I really do wish that Patrick, when he did that, sparkles actually did show around the gun and around Patrick. That would be amazing.
Hmm.
All right, we've got one from. These are kind of the same thing.
Yeah, same scene.
There was a point in last night's session where Burn set something on fire and Mariah ratted him out.
Actually, he extinguished the
Oh,
fire.
extinguished the fire. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Because I remember I went to the restroom and I came back and I thought we were like burning our implants or something. I was freaking
Nope.
out behind the scenes. Like, what are we
It was your
doing?
drugs.
It
How
was the
can you?
drugs.
Her implants are attached to her head and or brain.
Hence
Can't just
why,
burn them.
hence why I was freaking out. Because
Okay.
I'm like, what's going on?
Dude, he just ripped them out of her head and then throw it on the ground and burn them? Why? Oh,
Uh,
God.
And then this
okay.
is the same scene Criana drew this of Mariah pointing Tom.
I
Yeah,
really
outing
like.
Tom.
I like the facial expressions in this one.
I know.
Yeah.
Good
Her eyes are
times.
so big.
Good times. And there we
Indeed.
go.
Okay. So, small change of plans here. I'll talk about what I had in mind for today's session, and probably it'll bleed over a little bit into next week's session too, all dependent. So, obviously, you're going to be spending some time in this area with Eloc, as Eloc teaches, enlightens, awakens Mariah at this point. I believe it's the Mariah personality. So instead of me just saying, and 7 weeks pass and there's nothing eventful and this is what happens, right? So that's one extreme. The other extreme is we play like day by day, and that can bog things down quite a bit as well. So I broke things up into 3 phases, and I'd figured we'd approach this in a meta narrative way, right? So the first phase is me actually giving you general information about Eloc, things that you would have learned about the area, things that you're told or you know about the landscape, just to create a foundation for you guys. All right. The second part was actually Mila's lessons. I was planning on doing these little mini role plays of each of these 7 sessions that Mila would be taking part of. Criana is not going to be able to play today. It doesn't look like she might show up late, but we're not going to hold our breath on that. So this section, Eloc's lessons, we're going to save till next week. So next session, and we're still going to get this done, but we'll have to wait for our player to be there. And here comes the third part, something that we can definitely engage in. All right. And this is, I have created a random event table of about 19 different events that can happen over this week period. All right. So after I'm done laying the foundation, you guys as players will have a few options. You, of course, always can say, you know what, this is what we're going to do, or during this time, this is what my character's interested in doing, and we just talk about it, right? But on the other hand, if you're just like, you know what, just as a player to me, right? You just say, you know what, I'm going to roll. I want to roll on this random event table. I want to see what happens, right? And these random events can be anything. It could be weather patterns. It could be NPC interactions. It could be interactions with the outside world. Things could happen. All sorts of just they're really going to be mini scenes upon themselves. And it's a way for us to still pass by the week and still have you guys, give you guys something to do, something to react with. Does that sound like a good idea to you?
Yes.
Sweet.
Yes.
Okay, and
A
Piffy.
resounding positive notion.
Yay! Okay, so now then, let me set the scene. So this general information. All right. So you set up camp in the evening, and you find out that where you set up camp is only about 250 or so south of where Eloc stays. It is fully entrenched in these light woods. His tent and a makeshift fire pit seems to be the only remnants of any sort of actual settlement done by this old man. Now, nearby, to the east of his camp, is a garden. And although it doesn't look like much of a traditional garden, for after all, it just seems that these sprigs and plants shoot up from the ground, littered amongst fallen leaves, seemingly at random. So, soon after your initial encounter, last week's encounter with Eloc, he would also break apart that twine necklace of garlic that he has upon him and hands each of you, along with Bear, Alicia, and Lee, and of course Mila, a large clove of garlic from that necklace. As he ties it back around his neck, he tells you to fashion a necklace like his and to wear it at all times. And he says, "For truly I tell you, the wolves will consume you in the night if you do not comply." In addition, Eloc will provide 2 meals for the party every day if they wish. The meals will consist mostly of edibles from his garden and meat from the wild animals he catches, which seems to be mostly of small rodent species, rabbits, squirrels, beavers, an assortment of snares and traps that he's littered around the area. He also has fermented dandelion wine and offers it during meal times. Now, during those times, Lee looks around nervously, but always declines. Now, during this time with Eloc, during those 7 days with him, Eloc also educates you in the general landscape of the area. The light forest that you're currently in extends to the south and the west for quite a ways. To the north, the woods deepen considerably, as in they get more dense. And to the east, the trees start to become more sparse and the lands get wetter until you ultimately reach the edge of a lake. The lake you yourselves circumvented and where the behemoth lies. He also tells you and warns you that if you wander, to watch your step, for old remnants of the long dead litter the immediate area. Eloc teaches Mila. He conducts his lessons with her at night. And for those of you who are interested, who keep an eye on this strange old man, he seems to have a routine that he follows during the day. In the morning, he disappears into the woods. If your characters, for whatever reason, decide to follow him just out of curiosity, he makes no motions to try to conceal himself, and it's clear that he's gathering plant life from the surrounding area, and also checking the traps and snares that he'd set out over what appears to be almost a 1 to 2 mile area. It consumes his entire morning. Now, in the afternoon, he tends this makeshift garden that he makes. He plants and he harvests. And in the evenings, he prepares any game animal he catches and harvests and drives the herbs from the garden. Now, I believe it is Patrick who has the botany skill, correct?
Yes.
Why don't you give me a roll on that, sir?
All right. Skill botany.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So, if your character chooses to ever investigate or just take a look at, see what the heck Eloc is growing in this forest garden of his, these are the plants: Lily of the Valley, Lemon Balm, 2 of which you've already been very acquainted of, since that was it consisted what was in the tea that was that Mila drank. Also garlic, garlic, bay leaves, potatoes, cucumbers, wild celery, rhubarb, brown cap mushrooms, cloves, mint, wolf bay, and mistletoe. Okay? So that's it for me setting the foundation. All right? So now we get to the fun phase where we talk about what happens over these 7 days. So since you guys are the players, I will give you first initiative, whether you want to do or say things in character or you want to roll on that random events table. Completely up to you. Or if you have follow-up questions, too, with what I've already detailed.
Okay, I can say that there's a couple things I'd like to say that my character does during the time, but nothing that would prevent us from rolling on the random number table. So.
Oh, of course. Yeah. That's a great idea. Just like either general tasks or general things or talk about your characters generally, and then you guys can roll on this table as many times as you want.
They're basically what he would be doing on average the day would be to keep himself from constantly fretting over Mariah because he knows his nature. And if he let himself, he would just sit there and stare at them nonstop. He will train. He'll ask Tom if he wants to spar, knives versus sword, kind of just keep the practice up. He's going to do his best to engage Bear as well in sparring sessions or scouting sessions under the concept that Bear did not look good when we ended the last session, and as dedicated as he is to Mariah, Al thinks it might help him to get his mind off of it somehow, whether through sparring or scouting or whatnot. And the other thing he would do would be, it sounds kind of odd, but I guess kind of power armor agility training, in the sense that we're in a forest. And
it's a lightly sparse forest, so it's not it's not like the quiet rainforest, right?
What he would do a lot is run as quickly as the power armor would let him, which is 50 miles an hour, and do his best to maintain that speed while dodging trees and maybe trying to do gymnastics, basically trying to get good at eluding such things while running at high speeds.
Okie dokie. So before we move on to the next player, let me just give you some feedback on that sort of things. Obviously, the first few things that you mentioned is no problem. That's just what you do, right?
Right.
The other thing is in regards to Bear. You are correct in assuming that Bear is definitely not really acting like himself. Bear has always been a quiet wolfen, speaking only when he feels it's absolutely necessary, but he's even more quiet at this point. In fact, you can hear hushed whispers every time Mila comes back from her lessons. He asks her just a single simple question, which is, how are you feeling? Other than that, though, he obviously does need to spend his time doing other things. And he does welcome the distractions of doing some scouting or even doing some training, although during these encounters you can tell he's still distracted. His mind wanders from time to time, or he doesn't seem to be giving it his all, but he is making the effort at the very least.
Okay.
And then it sounded like you want to follow up to that.
I was just going to say one thing. Contrary to Al's normal, I guess, preachy self, he's going to make no real attempt to try and talk to him or tell him, to get over it. Nothing. He literally is just, tries to maybe have some small talk with Bear, but nothing serious, nothing. Just trying to get his mind off of things. So.
Okay. Excellent. And then the final thing is I would like you to give me a power armor piloting percentage roll, please.
Okay, give me 1 second. Give me robots and power armor. Got it.
Robots and power armor, yes.
All right. It's 74. So.
Oh, wow! You succeeded incredibly well. So, much to your, perhaps, personal pride, it's up to your character, but you're able to do several sessions of this agility training, and you don't even come close to hitting some trees. Even after you find a particular clutch that seems quite narrow, you manage to navigate it quite well. All right. So, moving on to either Tom or Patrick, whichever of you want to voice your opinions on what your characters would be doing to spend that time, that week's time. And then we can start rolling on the random events table if you guys like.
Mhm.
All right.
I know that Patrick would actually be interested in the herbs, and I definitely found out what they were. But generally, knowing what he's like, how he's cooking and things like that,
Okay.
would be something that he's interested in. Maybe purposes behind these particular teas, I guess.
Gotcha. Eloc is not interested in sharing. He's fine with you observing him. He seems very indifferent to that. However, either it's his apathy or his stoicness, or perhaps it's a guarded secret, but he deflects or outright ignores you when you ask, like, oh, this tea that you gave, Mila, or this tea that you're making, what's its purpose? What are you using it for? The most polite response you get from him is simply, it is not something that you would need to worry about. So he's not trying to be rude. It just seems that he's operating on a different level, and his focus. Okay, this is I'm gonna have a comparison here, because you're living very, very close to where he is, right? And he's obviously has taken Mila as a student, even temporarily. The rest of you he sees as, if you've ever been in a home where, imagine this, you are the roommates with somebody, right? And your roommates are having a party, and they invite a bunch of people that you don't know, right? And you don't want to mingle, you don't want to meet with them or anything like that. You just want to you just want to go to the kitchen, make yourself a pizza, watch the TV, do what you do. And there are other people in your house, and that's fine, and you're not going to be rude to them or anything like that, but they're not your friends, right? And as long as they don't interfere with what you want to do, then there's no big deal. That's kind of like how Eloc is treating you guys. He'll talk with you a little bit. He'll be polite. He won't kick you out. But it's clearly you're not his friends, and he doesn't want to be your friends, So that's kind of why he's not explaining why the teas are working in a certain way or anything like that. So there you go. Sorry, what else?
Besides the curiosity of the teas, I definitely don't get any information from asking him.
No.
I'm assuming that viewing is pretty much just seeing a man brew tea.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. You do hear him murmur some words underneath his breath while he does so, but it doesn't mean anything to you.
All right. No. Yeah, Patrick would be curious enough about that.
Okay.
So he would, being a bother that he is, and generally clueless to even the smallest notion of people going like, well, I really don't want to like hang out with you. He doesn't pick up on these things.
That's fine.
He's also going to ask him about the portraits of Mercury.
Okay. With that, he's a little bit more responsive. Let's just roleplay the conversation real quick. You know what I mean? So,
Yes.
So how exactly do you ask him about it?
Probably while just trying to observe his teas and whatnot. Patrick would probably speak up and say something along the lines of, so, I've seen a few markings around of the celestial body Mercury.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that was. Actually, did you draw those?
The elderly man, a face full of wrinkles, looks to you with his pale eyes, and he says, "Yes, I made the markings upon stone and wood, so I would make a mark inside her mind." It's a symbol. An important one. One to reflect upon, although you cannot be awakened, so you wouldn't understand.
Oh. Well, I will say it's a pretty accurate depiction of Mercury.
Mm-hmm. Do you know why it is accurate?
I was actually a little curious about that.
It's because I see it not with these things, and he points to his eyes. And he says, I see it with another eye, an internal eye, a pure, clear eye that can see off into infinity. That is how I know.
So it's not your real eyes that can see excuse me, not your these, and he points to his own eyes,
Mhm.
but another one that can view.
It's not even an eye. That was just a turn of phrase. I simply know, and I draw. You say it is accurate, and he gives a passive shrug. Accurate to what? To what you know? What do you truly know? What do any of us know?
Well, I like to find out such things.
Mm-hmm. Curiosity is good, even for a mind that isn't awakened, that isn't gifted like mine or your friends.
I get that a lot.
He gives a solemn nod. Okie dokie. Anything else? Asks the GM, not Eloc.
um, um, I guess with just a few days of him viewing how the tea is done,
Mm-hmm.
in that brief discussion about the Mercury
Mercury, yeah.
Symbol, Patrick would probably see how most other people are doing. So I guess I'll wait until Burn does his thing, I guess.
Okie dokie. Bernie, what are
Yeah?
some of the things that Tom would be doing throughout the week, do you think?
Well, I think that Tom would really like to spar with Al, just like
Sweet.
Al stated, but not only with swords, with bare fists.
Why? You want to
know.
punch each other? Okay.
Yeah, like boxing, that kind of thing.
Ah, I see.
But
Yeah,
my beautiful
yeah.
elf face. No, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
sparring boxing, not like a duel to
Sparring
the death
boxing.
squee.
Yeah. And for the most part, is there a body of water nearby?
It depends on how large you're looking for.
Large enough to fish in.
No. Nearby, no. There is that lake, but that is a solid day and a half. Well, maybe just under a day east. So it would take, yeah. And it's the lake that you park the behemoth in.
Yeah, I'd rather not.
That's the closest
Well-
large body of water in which to fish in.
My fishing kit is gonna be useless.
Well,
Damn.
I wouldn't say
Anyways.
useless, just not
Well-
used right now.
Not used right. Yeah, that is
Okay.
true.
Mhm.
And for the most part, he's gonna kind of try and keep to himself. He's gonna be writing a lot more,
Mhm.
because of their interaction with. Forgot her name, but you know what I mean.
Um. Oh, Aaron Tarn.
Yes.
I'm like her name.
Um,
Her name. Who could we be talking about? Oh yes,
yeah.
Aaron.
And
Mm-hmm.
Tom will ask Patrick if he could possibly borrow her book.
Right. The
Mm-hmm.
book.
The book.
Because I kind of want to read it. But if not, that's cool. I'll entertain myself some other way.
So. Oh yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
so generally, Patrick would also like to read such things. If you want to look over his shoulder and get real close to him, I don't think he would mind.
Don't you have two
But-
copies of the book? One for you and one for your
Teacher?
mentor? Although I would understand why you might want. Sorry. Yeah, unless you knew. I'll shut up.
I think it's fine. Never mind. I can read it another time if after you're done with it. I would like to roll on this special, super awesome table.
Okay. Give me a moment. I'm going to use the washroom real quick. And it sounds like Squee has something to say too.
I was going to
so-
say, just because it's kind of funny, Al is also chomping at the bit to read the book, but he is politely.
Okay. I was about to say, like, you guys have 7 days. That can be quite a bit of reading time, depending on how much extracurricular events you guys take part in. It would be fair to assume that, like, maybe 2 people would be able to read the entire thing in a week. You know what I mean? Like, one reads it in, like, 2.5 days, or 3.5 days, and the other one in the other 3.5 or so. But I don't know if all 3 of you guys have to suss that amongst yourselves, frankly. But I'll just use the washroom before we start rolling here, okay?
All right.
Yep.
We're all such fanboys for Aaron. Actually, here's a question. Piff, the orb is not with you, correct?
No.
Okay.
I'm gonna test something.
Okay.
Let's see. What's this?
At some point, Al would pick your brain as to what the orb is capable of doing.
I failed. Shit. Yeah.
Because the thing is, we all have the list, but here's the thing: Al's never actually touched it, so Al wouldn't know what that list is unless he talks to Patrick or touches the orb himself.
Yeah. What he would do is he would actually move you to his house
Oh. Right. that would work.
and let you touch it for yourself. There's plenty of words I can describe, but it might be best to actually do that.
Okay. Al would then spend some time talking to Patrick and probably Tom. As morbid as it is, Al would phrase it much more in the scientific way. But he would say, it's fair to say that Al would have a general understanding of the capabilities, though probably not as good a grasp as Patrick, who has actually used it before.
Capabilities. Oh, sorry.
So what we discussed beforehand was like Al questioned Patrick about the orb and like what its capabilities was, and then I just kind of whisk him away to the house to let him touch the orb.
Oh yeah, okay. The second you touch the orb, you know exactly. It's not that like one person knows more than the other. That's not the case. The second it's touched, you understand. This thing is powerful. You understand what it does instantaneously.
So Al would spend some time, probably with Tom and Patrick, just kind of, and we can do this roleplay wise, just kind of brainstorming or saying, I was thinking about, and I would say this would be like a day or so after he's touched the orb, when he's had time to consider. And he would say, Patrick, I've heard that, I've never actually seen it myself, but the Coalition used to run tests on it, that when you subject ice to incredibly high temperatures really quickly, the ice can explode. Have you ever heard of something like this?
Roll chemistry check.
All right. Do 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 do. Ba-do, ba-do, boop, 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 boop.
Boop.
Okay. Chemistry. That's biology.
You have a chemistry skill as well, right, Al?
Yes. You want me to roll as well?
No.
Okay.
I wanted to just make sure. I mean, like, I really like how you kind of bled into this, saying like the coalition did experiments on it. I guess they could have. It could have even just been a couple sentences in something that you read. But since you have a chemistry skill, it means that you understand it. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
I
Anyways,
probably
but
should have led with the roll first, but thank you.
nah, it's fine. It's all good.
I don't have chemistry.
You don't have chemistry? Then you can just be like, well, there you go. If you don't have chemistry, then play it in character, I guess. To what he said. To what he says.
I will roll this because I've actually accidentally done this in real life, so I'm actually going to do cooking, and you may have as many negatives as you would like.
Oh, okay, negative 20%.
All right.
Negative 20%.
I'm wondering what you would find in the kitchen that would generate this kind of heat, though.
Okay. Well,
Whoa.
you know what hot water does to ice cubes and shit like that.
Yeah, generally, I'm not quite sure if this would happen in Risk, but I know that a refrigerated, like glass, if you put in like a microwave, it will freaking shatter.
Yeah. Okay, so you'd be familiar with your cooking experience to a similar reaction, and you can communicate that to Al.